All right, game time once again. This is game 2 of the second match that Nate and I played. I just had won the first one in in bizarre fashion with basically just a giant shrine to the face, followed with and combined with a char and some self-inflicted damage, taking Nate all the way down to 3, and him conceding with no real answer in hand. And I've got, hey look, the Shrine of Burning Rage is back. And I've got Scorched Rusalka. This is a really, really good hand against Nate's kind of deck. Not only is it the ticking threat, but Scorched Rusalka actually surprisingly strong against a lot of decks. It's actually in the deck because of the way that it works against both Batterskull and Umezawa's Jitte, which are two real enemies of mono red. And having Scorched Rusalka out means that instead of them gaining 4 life a turn off of Batterskull, they take 1 damage a turn instead, as long as you've got creatures out. The same thing is true for Umezawa's Jitte. Instead of them getting counters on it, you can block, throw the guy at their face, and often just a few turns of that tempo swing is enough to win the game. I've got Eidolon of the Great Revel. This thing is ridiculous against, well, pretty much every deck in the format if you're ahead in life. It does damage you as well, but against an Oath deck that's trying to play a lot of mana artifacts and stuff, this card is just ruinous, completely crushing. You pretty much have to kill it or you lose. And in that same category is Harsh Mentor as well. Pretty much the same thing. You can't use fetch lands. I mean, you can, but they deal insane damage to you. And the damage just piles up so fast, along with the ticking shrine, that I'm very confident in this hand, almost no matter what Nate does. But as you're about to see, he does a lot this game. Turn 1, Soul Ring. My nemesis returns, even in this format. This is a 4-point card, and Nate is elected to spend 40% of his entire point allowance on it. I actually have Soul Ring in my Jeskai control deck as well, because without really playing Moxes or any of the power, it is hard to spend 10 points on a deck, actually. And Soul Ring is, of course, insanely powerful, particularly if you have lots of ways to get it in the form of things like Trinket Mage and stuff. Very, very strong. Nate obviously is not playing Trinket Mage, but he is playing Enlightened Tutor. And yeah, Soul Ring is incredibly powerful and will be instrumental in this game unless I'm able to get rid of it. That makes me just feel like I'm really far behind. Plus, he didn't mulligan either. He's got 7-card hand. All right, Mountain's good. I'm going to play the Visage. Throw down my Rusalka, which looks so meager and feeble compared to 3 mana on turn 1. It's not even Commander format. He just has the Soul Ring anyway. All right. Gets a Plains for the same reason I explained before. Just prophylactic against all the horrible things I can do to non-basic lands in this deck. And he's got Sterling Grove on turn 2. Nasty, nasty, nasty. So he's got basically Oath coming down already on turn 3, and I've got to be prepared for that. Which means, well, I've got one turn of allowance, and I decide it's time to, as much as I'd like to put one of these guys in play, the Eidolon or the Harsh Mentor, I kind of need to just play Shrine and hope for the best again. So I attack for 1. He sacks the Grove, of course, and surprisingly gets Moat. Really, really interesting choice there. I mean, obviously, presumably he's got another white mana in hand, so he can play it. I would have thought he would have gotten Oath of Druids, but I guess he's recognizing the fact that I can just throw the Scorched Rusalka at his head, and then maybe I can just let the Shrine tick up again and do the same thing I did last game. So he figures that Moat will buy him enough time that he can get the other parts of the deck engaged, whereas the Oath doesn't really impact the game. This does shut down my creatures as well. I have, I don't know, maybe like 3 things in my deck I think that can attack with Moat in play. I have the Phoenix that has haste that you can regrow whenever you damage them with a spell. I have the Smuggler's Copter, and I have the Dragon, the 2-drop for 2 with level up. And if you can level it up to level 4, which it requires just a 4 red mana investment, it turns into a 4/4 flyer, which has killed me a number of times testing against this red-white deck when I did have Moat in play. So it's not a sure thing. It's just harder, which is kind of what the control decks are always doing to you anyway. All right, deck. Let's see what we got. Oh my God, so lucky. Copter right off the top. And I'm sure when I played this, Nate is thinking, oh man, I just got punished for tutoring for Moat because Brian had Copter in his hand the whole time. But nope, I just luck sacked right into it. I can't attack though, and it doesn't pump up the Shrine. So the game's not over by any measure. And if Nate has a way of handling the Copter, I'm going to be in really deep trouble because I can't get that lucky twice, can I? He gets a Forest. Very, very savvy decision just to keep his mana base diverse. And then he slams Dragon Lord Dramoka against me. Yeah, and I have no burn spells in hand either. No way to shut off life gain. And as soon as he does this, I basically just figure, okay, I'm just dead. I mean, I guess it would be possible if I draw, and I can't even play spells on his turn, so that means I can't block and burn it with the copter. All I can do is maybe block later on. I can trade blows if he attacks me, but yeah, I mean, come on, let's get serious. All right. Well, I can cast this Sin Prodder guy. It's more like Sin Plotter because it's not going to be able to attack or really do much of anything. And he's going to gain enough life to make me just discard the cards that I might get from it for free. It does pump the Shrine to 3, and I've got a very roundabout way of potentially killing Dragonlord Dramoka, which is leveling up the Shrine to 7 and sacking it to kill it. Yeah, I'm sure that'll work out. We'll see what happens. I can't attack right now. And it just smashes me for 5. So we reverse life totals. It's like a Mirror Universe hit. He goes to 20, I go to 15. And I'm hoping, like, please don't play anything more nasty. He transmutes Muddle. Very interesting. There's a lot of things he could have gotten here for to go with this board stat. I mean, he could have just gotten Oath of Druids, which would have been quite interesting because it would have kept me... Well, I guess I can... There isn't really any way for me to attack with the Copter if he gets Oath, because if he plays Oath, I have to... well, I guess I can go down to 1 creature because he does have the Dragonlord in play. It would require me to sack Sin Prodder, and then I would play a guy, crew the Copter with it, hit, and then I guess have to sack the thing to the Rusalka. So instead of getting his signature card, he goes for Winter Orb here with me tapped down to 3 mana. Though this does tap him out a fair amount as well, and my primary threats don't cost anything. So it's an interesting choice. Nate knows his deck better than I do. And one thing I did want to say is that, to Nate's great credit, there's a lot of technique in design, and there's a lot of technique in playing something that you have designed. And Nate just put this deck together. He doesn't have a lot of experience playing in a singleton format, really, despite what we did many, many years ago. Most of his experiences with Commander. And I found this deck when I was playtesting it yesterday to be incredibly difficult to play. Like really, really, really complicated. There's so many different tutors, recurring effects, all sorts of different decisions you have to make along the way. And as you know, many of these games can come down to a single decision deciding the outcome of the game. So yeah, I felt like I was making mistakes with the deck every single turn that I played it, and constantly second guessing. And there's one game where I had a forbidden hand. I was at 10, and I had the opportunity to play I had a bunch of different things I could have done. I could have flashed back the Reclamation to put Zoran Orb into play, and instead of doing that, because I was at 10 life and my opponent only had 1 card in hand, and I felt like I was pretty secure, so I played Jace the Mind Sculptor instead with Forbid out and only 1 blue source, and he untapped and top decked Price of Progress, and the last card in his hand was Char, and he had exactly enough to deal 10 to me to kill me. And I had a very similar game in one of the other games too, where I could have gotten a Zoran Orb and didn't, and sure enough, he had Fire Blast in his hand. He was able to push through exactly enough damage to kill me. And then in another game, very similar situation, I eventually had a Mystical Tutor for Wargate, and I cast Wargate to put Zoran Orb into play for 0, and he had Fire Blast again and killed me. And so many of these games were close, and I just wondered if I had done something differently, I could have swung it the other way. So very, very complicated to play this Oath deck. I do not recommend trying it at home. First put in like your 10,000 hours of playing control decks, and maybe you can give it a shot. All right, so Sin Prodder reveals Ancient Tomb, which of course it can make me discard. Sin Prodder is really a pretty amazing creature, though. The fact that they either let you draw spells every turn, provided you flip one, or they take extra damage. It's just pretty nuts for just a 3-drop, and it's 3 power with Menace. Pretty sick. All right, Shrine up to 4. Gonna have to play, so I'm gonna crew the Copter. That'll allow me to attack. I get Vortex. Holy shit, that is so lucky. Unreal. I mean, that's crazy how lucky that is. It's not a creature. I think probably maybe the dinosaur, the 3/3, the Ferocidon would have been better because that shuts off life gain as well. But it does damage me steadily over multiple turns, and it's probably easier for him to deal with given that it's a creature versus an enchantment. But this was just insane. Like, being able to prevent him from gaining life in this position, and now he takes 2 a turn instead of gaining 5, absolutely huge. So he plays Crucible of Worlds, and it's going to hurt him some more to play those. He plays Personal Tutor, and he puts Council's Judgment on top of the deck, and he's going to have the ability to cast it next turn. So that at least gives him an answer to the Sulfuric Vortex, or potentially the Shrine of Rage, because I'm not going to be able to pop the Shrine unless I mean, I guess I have to draw Mox Ruby or something before he can cancel his Judgment in a way. I don't really actually think, I guess it's possible that I could put a counter on it, untap, draw Ruby and a land off this between my draw step and the Smuggler's Copter and be able to actually sack the Shrine. But I would actually have to sack the Shrine in advance of him casting Council's Judgment, and then he would choose Sulfuric Vortex, and I'd lose both permanents, and I'd still have to deal with Dragonlord Dromoka. So, yeah, it's a bad spot. Down to 10. All right, so I reveal Jackal Pup. Of course, he lets me keep that. And that thing hits me down to 8. So close here. All right, so I'm going to crew and smash with the Copter. Takes him down to 11. I got this useless guy, right? He doesn't even make 1/1 goblins unless you attack, so he's totally insane. The deck has all the crazy 3-drop goblins that make tons of free goblins, but this guy's useless with mode in play. All right, so I did draw a Mountain, which is very, very good. I do not have the ability to use the Shrine, and of course I'm not going to play anything from my hand. All right, what's going to happen here? And I think in Nate's case, and he admitted to this afterward, right? I think that the play is you just cast Councilor's Judgment on Shrine of Burning Rage. Sure, he doesn't have the ability to gain life, but neither do I. And so let's see what happens here. What it does happen if he does this. So if he goes and he casts Councilor's Judgment, he names Shrine. Dragonlord hits me down to 3. I take 2 more damage during upkeep from the Vortex, and then I can crew the Copter, hit him for 3. That takes him down to 5. And I've got 3 red mana, and I can actually go sack, sack, sack. Yeah, that does actually kill him too. So I guess maybe this was the right call, because I could sack all 3 creatures after combat to the Rusalka. That would take him to exactly 2 life, and the Vortex would kill him during his upkeep with me at 1. Crazy game. So knowing this, I guess, and knowing that he needs to get life gain, he does cast Councilor's Judgment and chooses Sulfuric Vortex, which gives me a way to kill Dragonlord Dromoka. Yeah, Nate, I think you were worried that you had not killed the Shrine of Burning Rage over the enchantment, but in retrospect, I think you actually lose the game if you kill Shrine of Burning Rage, because if you do that, like I just said, I go down to 1, but I get to counterattack and hit you for 3 plus 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I have exactly lethal. So you did the right thing, Nate. Don't feel bad. All right, untap a Mountain. Shrine pumps. 7. All right, I can still crew. Beat for 3. And I'm going to throw away that dumb Jackal Pup. Oh, nice. I get Crater Maker as well. This gives me a way to kill a Winter Orb if I ever get enough mana. Though it's doing quite a bit of harm to him as well, even with Crucible. And yeah, I'm just going to sack that right now. There's no reason I can, since, I know I'm going to do it, it's not going to not attack me for lethal. And it does bar him having some sort of trick. I don't know if he's got Disallow in the deck or something, but he could potentially stifle the Shrine effect, and I would lose the opportunity to kill the Dragonlord. So there's no reason not to just main phase it. All right. Well, I'm fully tapped out, but he only has 1 card in hand, and I've still got the Copter. So it is not over. Prodder throws a Mountain in the graveyard, which I wish I could draw, but there's another one. I'm going to play the Mountain. All right. Get him, Copter. Get him. Draw Magus of the Moon. Sweet. All right. Well, I got to throw something away here. And I realize that the Harsh Mentor is probably pretty terrible, given the fact that I'm at 3. And I may need to wind up doing some activations down the road. So even though it is a 2-drop, I figure if I can get rid of Winter Orb, the Seasoned Pyromancer is probably quite a bit better than Harsh Mentor anyway. And I don't foresee ever casting it. He's down to 7. He's going to have to be very careful whether he sacks lands at this point to go get more land. He gets Wasteland. Punish for untapping the Imposing Visage. I remember when I did that too, thinking if he draws Wasteland, I'm going to feel pretty dumb. Because he just gets to kill a land. I have no use for white mana right now because I can always untap it when I decide to cast Stoneforge Mystic if I eventually do, and now I'm behind by a land. So that was actually very, very powerful and decisive because Nate plays Mystic Sanctuary, an amazingly strong card in pretty much any deck with islands, and that allows him to get the Council's Judgment back on top of his deck. Oops. And he taps a bunch of mana. This is not the most effective card under Winter Orb, but still pretty good. Still draw 3 for 6 mana. That's Soul Ring, and now he's back up to 9 with 4 cards in hand, but fully tapped out. Okay, come on, deck. I really, really want to draw a land here. A land would be amazing because I could play a land, play the Goblin Crater Maker end of turn, hit with the Copter, and then end of turn, he only gets to untap 2 things. I can destroy the Winter Orb with the Crater Maker and untap into this full hand of all sorts of goodies. Yeah, now it's Incinerate. Nice. All right, Copter smacking in. He takes 3 more damage, going down to 6. And he's not cast his Council's Judgment yet. So he plays that. And unfortunately, is there a Plains gone? Oh, he only runs 1 Plains. So he has to fetch a Hallowed Fountain here and take 2 more damage. Down to 3. And I've got 3 guys in play. What's he going to do? So he taps his mana, Council's Judgment. This is presumably going to kill Smuggler's Copter, but he's got... Like, how the hell is he going to win this game at this point, right? And after he plays the Council's Judgment, you can see no, the game is not advancing any further. That is the end. Somehow I managed to beat turn 1 Sol Ring and turn 2 Moat. Or turn 3 Moat, I guess, with my mono red deck. Without getting rid of either of those cards. Shrine obviously had a lot. Oh yeah, that's right. And like turn 4 Dramoka, lifelink guy. By killing it with Shrine of Burning Rage. I got lucky as hell this game, drawing both Smuggler's Copter and then the Vortex, which were key permanents to shut it off. But that is, of course, why I'm playing with those cards. If you play with cards that are designed around certain situations, those situations will often present themselves, and you get to see why you played the card in the first place. And this was, I felt, a really, really cool demonstration again of all the tools in the red-white deck, and pulled out this seemingly impossible game. Actually, the last 2 games have both been super, super close and have come down to really 1 or 2 draws and maybe a couple of decisions. But really fun playing against Nate. He's always an incredibly tough opponent, and we always learn something when we play and move on to the next game. I hope you guys like this one. I will continue to play more Canadian Highlander games, and I will record more replays of them if I get a good reception from the audience. See you guys later. Take care.